All right, you are now tuned in to the Rotated Views podcast. I am your host, Jimmy Lee Velez. I'm here with Heck, Gabe, Goose, and Jared. Serviced Payments. In this episode, the crew welcomes special guests Jared, Tamashiro, and Mike Mumola. We cover topics that range from term loans, line of credit, merchant cash advances, the coronavirus, and much more. We wrap the episode up with quotes from John Wooden and Elizabeth Kenny. Guys, if you're new, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to download and subscribe. We drop a new episode every Tuesday morning for your listening pleasure. Kicking things off, gentlemen, Jared, thank you for joining us, man. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we're in Hamilton, New Jersey right now, but for those of us who do not know who you are and what you do, let us know.
Yeah, my name's Jared, and pretty much we help businesses obtain capital, regardless of their credit score or their personal history. Yeah, that's what we do. We're able to get people, businesses, money, even when the bank says no.
Nice. All right. So how did you actually get started in the industry? Right. So I know a lot of times when you're in high school or middle school, some people know what they want to do, and sometimes maybe it's a sport, maybe it's a I don't know, like a trade or something, and then some people know exactly what they want to do. But then there's a lot of us who enter into college and you go maybe as undecided, and they start figuring things out, and you see things that kind of pique your interest, or something else in life, and not necessarily college, but maybe something else moved you to that direction. How did you get started in this industry?
That's a good question. I was actually it was about 7 years ago. I was living in a town called Freehold, New Jersey, which is in Monmouth County, and at that time I was actually working as a dishwasher at ShopRite in Freehold, and I had went on the Craigslist, and I saw that there was a place that was hiring in Freehold, and they were paying more than ShopRite did. Yeah. So I was like, I'm all in.
Yeah.
And I ended up going to applying for the job, and they called me, and then when I went in there, I noticed that it was a lot of Jewish culture. Yeah. In this office. Yeah. And I was probably one of the only people that wasn't Jewish. Yeah. And they and there was some Russian Jews there as well, and they asked if I ever did any telemarketing or anything like that, and at that time I haven't. Yeah. And I was completely clueless on what they were doing or working on the phones. The only type of work that I kind of knew how to do was like working at grocery stores and
of course
and things like that. And it was only supposed to be for the summer, so I was only supposed to work there for the summer because at the time I was going to community college in Monmouth County. Yeah. And they said, well, why would you want to work here? What makes you think that you could make it here or do well here? And I was just like, I don't know if I am gonna make it here. I don't know if I'm gonna do well, but I know that I'll try with everything I got. Yeah. At least to make the best attempt possible. Yeah. And they hired me, and I remember the one thing the guy that hired me said. He said to me, kid, if you do well in this business, you won't need to go back to school ever again. Nice. And but I didn't understood what he meant at that time. But so I ended up working and been doing it ever since. So Craigslist is the answer to that question.
That is crazy. So wait a minute. Wow. What in the world made you want to go on Craigslist though? Because at one point Craigslist was, like a thing where you look things up and all that other jazz. Mike Mumola, everyone, my man. Look at him. He's here. What's going on, man? I love it. Comes in, crashes the party. Nice. Typical Mike Mumola. You gotta love it. But
this looks like a party.
Yeah. So I do remember there was like a period of time where you jumped onto Craigslist and you pretty much just got whatever you needed, whether it was business stuff or whatever. And you really were legit going for a job, right? Like you're looking for a job.
On Craigslist, yeah.
And you're basically just like, whatever pays more than the grocery store.
ShopRite, yeah. Whatever's paying more than washing dishes at ShopRite. I'm all in,
That's amazing. All right, so then what happened after that summer?
So I ended up, I guess it became second nature, because I guess talking to people and things like that was something that everybody does their whole life.
Yeah.
So me sitting on a chair and just talking to business owners in North Dakota or in Texas was something that was easy.
Yeah.
And something that was like, yo, I don't have to scrub pots anymore. Let me just take a seat in these comfortable chairs. And so that summer I ended up doing really well, like as a new guy. And I decided not to go back to school at Brookdale, which is Monmouth County Community College, because I was making this company a lot of money, and I was making, like, I think it was like anywhere from 500 to 800 a week. Wow, and that was the most money I've ever seen in my life at that point. I didn't have a driver's license at that point either. Never had a driver's license at that point. So I was really enjoying life back then.
Yeah.
And after that summer, I ended up just staying there full time. And I worked there in Freehold for like another year.
Okay.
And then the company had split up into two companies. Okay. The company that I was working for, which was called Synergy Business Solutions, which is now in Hollywood, Florida.
Okay.
And half the company went to this company called Premier Capital, which is in Brooklyn, and then the other half of the company went to the Wall Street area. The address that we ended up going to was 40 Exchange Place.
Okay.
In downtown New York.
Yeah.
Which is literally right across from the New York Stock Exchange, and that's where I ended up going. It was a company called Pierce Capital.
Okay.
And I was commuting from Freehold all the way down to Wall Street, and it was definitely a painful commute and a grind, to say the least.
So were you taking the train?
Yeah, I was taking a bus from Freehold, the 139, straight into the New York Port Authority bus terminal, 42nd Street.
Okay.
And then I would take the 2 and 3 train down to Wall Street.
So how long would it take you from Freehold to New York?
It would one way is probably 3 hours.
Wow. So you're commuting 6 hours a day.
Yeah.
Insane.
Holy
That's painful.
smokes. That is painful. Yeah. My buddy was just telling me that he travels into New York, and it was 2 hours. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know how you do it. And you just said 3 hours.
You know what it was that extended the commute too? It was after you get to Port Authority bus terminal, you got to take the 2 and 3 train all the way down to Wall Street, which is another 30, 40 minutes.
Wow.
Right there. Yeah.
Yeah. So from there, all right, so what happens when you're in Wall Street? Are you getting attracted to the big life and the big city?
That's a good question. So growing up where I grew up, which is by Cherry Hill, New Jersey, South Jersey by Philadelphia.
Yeah.
A lot of the people that I grew up with, they were blue collar guys. They were guys that did construction, guys that were landscapers and things like that.
Yeah.
Wall Street and things of those natures, and New York City was so far away from that area. And so I end up going to Wall Street, and I see I work on this building, and I'm on the 42nd floor. This gigantic building, and I'm just like, yo, what is this place? And then I go in there, and I just see, hundreds and hundreds of salespeople, on the phones, pitching and selling, and people screaming on the phones. This place is going crazy, and I'm in love with this. I'm like, this is awesome. This is like a movie.
It's
like Boiler
based off of the movie Wall Street.
Yeah.
You watch the movie, you see them all screaming and yelling and stuff, throwing paper in the air.
Very similar.
Yeah,
it's super competitive too.
Yeah. And so while I'm starting to get I'm starting to see different walks of life now. And my old boss, before he took me to New York to go work at that company, he said, "Kid, we got to get you out of the sticks, and we got to get you in New York. It's going to change your life for the rest of your life."
Wow.
And it did. And I ended up when I was working in Freehold, I did very well because there wasn't too much competition. And the competition that I did have, when I wasn't being lazy, I could outproduce these guys. But then when I got to New York at a bigger company with hundreds of people, the atmosphere was different, and there was a lot more competition. And it actually made me better. Because I got this watch different people and how they move and how they pitch and how they go about every phone call, and I always wanted to be the best.
Yeah.
And I was a young guy, and I would go in there, and and I would compete with some of the best guys there, and I had a really, really great time learning the business, because basically when I was in Freehold, there was only so much information that I could learn from the people that I worked with and the owners of the company.
Yeah.
But when I got to New York, I got to learn the loopholes and different ways to get the things that I need done that I didn't know in Freehold.
Yeah.
So it definitely escalated my game and took me to the next level. It taught me a lot, and it also got me the connections that I have today with marketing and different resources like that.
Yeah.
So I ended up working in New York for, I think, a little over a year and a half, so to speak.
Yeah.
And my boss was like, listen, we're gonna go down to Florida, and we're gonna open up another branch of this company out there, and I want you to run the business, and I want you to train all the new guys.
Yeah.
And at that time, I think I was making around like $50,000-$60,000 a year.
Yeah.
And I actually, and I told them that I actually had a baby at the time too, and I told them that I would move to Florida.
Yeah.
So I moved to Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
And I was commuting. I was just taking a little ride to get to Hollywood every day to go to work, and my old boss actually gave 2/3 of the company away to these 2 other Russian Jewish guys that were out there. And when he did that, they gave me a offer for a new pay regiment, and it was an offer that I really, really didn't like.
Yeah.
That I actually thought was extremely disrespectful.
Yeah.
And I said thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah.
And I decided to leave the business.
Yeah.
And I moved back to New Jersey. And the reason why I was in Hamilton was because one of my good friends, his dad, he got me a job selling cars. And then in that time that I was selling the cars, I had opened up an LLC.
Okay.
And I had 2 clients that I was close with that were technically from some of the other places that I worked at, but that I just kept in contact with.
Yeah.
And I remember I was at the Nissan dealership, and I got these two business owners money. One of the guys that I got money, he owned a construction company in Neptune, New Jersey.
Okay.
And I had another guy, and he was from another state, and I ended up getting him money at the same day. So basically, I'm at the Nissan car dealership, and I think my first month there, I made like $5-6 grand. I only was there about a month, but anyway, what happened was I got those 2 businesses money, and I think I made like $42,000. And
wow.
And I remember just being at the dealership, and the general manager was just like, "What are you doing?" I was just like, "Man, I quit."
Yeah.
And he's just like, "You can't quit," because I was the only person at the dealership that was ready to make calls, and I was the only person willing to make calls, and I was the only person that was good at making calls.
Gotcha.
So what I would do at the dealership was I would call all the people that their leases were getting ready to be done, and I would get them all to come in. They didn't want me to leave. But I'm like, hey, I just made 40 grand, on a couple calls versus sitting here and selling cars all day. And I left the dealership, and but the problem was, hey, I made the 40,000, but where's the next deal going to come from?
Yeah.
That's the big question.
Right.
And I knew the guy that I worked for, my old boss, I knew the guy that he was buying data marketing from.
Okay.
And the guy that he was buying the marketing from was actually a fan of mine. Not a fan, but like he thought that I was a young guy that had a lot of potential. And he liked me.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I also put a lot of money in his pockets as well when I worked at the company in New York.
Of course.
So anyway, he tells me I knew that I had to find marketing, and if I couldn't find marketing, there was no way that I could pursue this career.
Yeah.
Because marketing is the bloodline of pretty much every business, but especially merchant cash advance.
So when you're saying marketing, are you saying like generating leads, so people are calling you, or you're getting phone numbers, or are you saying traffic to a website? What do you mean?
I mean people that are in the market
Yeah.
right now.
Gotcha. And there's a database that has all these people, and basically
you got to know. Everybody knows somebody that knows somebody.
It's a gold mine,
and that's the way the industry that I'm involved in is. It's like if you don't have an in, there's no way you can get in. You follow me?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And it's a Jewish dominated business.
Gotcha.
So, most 95% of the business is, Hasidic Jews.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they don't bring anyone else into the business.
Right.
So anyway, I was like, you know what, this is ballsy, because my old boss said that he couldn't. I tried getting him to get me leads, and he said that the guy didn't have any more leads.
Yeah.
And he told me it was like $50 a name, like some crazy.
Yeah.
He was just trying to take me for a ride, and I was like, dude, you're like a father to me.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't want to make money with me and I'm not making money for you, that's one thing. But to tell me things that aren't true.
Yeah.
And when I thought we were family is a whole nother topic.
Yeah.
And but I said, you know what, I'm gonna go to that guy, because I know where the guy still worked at the company in New York.
Okay.
I'm gonna go there, and I'm just gonna wait for him to come out, and when he comes out, I'm gonna try to talk to him about buying leads.
Yeah.
And that guy at the time was making about $100,000 a week just selling leads.
Jeez.
Just selling leads, making about $100K a week. And so I ended up popping up. I took the bus to Wall Street. And I waited all day from like 9 in the morning till like 6 at night for the guy to come out. And I had a friend that worked in the building, so he would tell me where the guy was at all times. So then the guy came outside to leave.
Yeah.
And I saw him, and he saw me, and he goes, Jared, I know why you're here. And I was just like, I just started smiling. I'm like, yeah, you know why I'm here.
Yeah.
And he's just like, I got you, man.
What?
And that's what started, me starting to buy leads from him, and that's what started the whole business. And basically what happened was, as soon as I made that connection with him and started buying marketing from him, I was at my condo in Hamilton, because the only reason why I was living in Hamilton was because I thought I was working at the car dealership.
Gotcha.
You understand?
Yeah.
So if it wasn't for the car dealership, I probably would have never been in Hamilton.
Gotcha.
So make a long story short, I started buying leads from him, and I started calling from my apartment in Hamilton by myself.
Yeah.
And I was good for at least 20 to 30K a month by myself.
Yeah.
On the phones.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I saw that this was real, and I was really making, 10, 20, 30,000 a month every month by myself.
Yeah.
So then I said, hey, if I can do this, there has to be other people. I can enlighten other people and and be a part of changing their lives for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's basically how it all started. I was just making calls from the house, and I started, living real comfortable. And then I brought a couple of my friends in to the business.
Nice.
Which could be a bad thing and also a good thing. It depends.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
And that's pretty much. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Wow.
That's awesome. Great. So let's fast forward. How business started moving along. You're here in Hamilton. What's the connection? Because we have Mike Mumola here with us. What's the connection with Mike and yourself?
We're related. See, Jared's mother and my mother are both mothers.
True.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and he's actually, I'm a tenant here, and I think he was the first guy I spoke to out of all the lawyers.
Yeah.
Nice.
So he's here in the building and in the community, and we just started talking one day, and he told me what he was up to. I see this young guy. He steps out of a nice car, and he's got the pencil pants suits on with no socks and the fancy shoes. He's got the nice sunglasses, and I'm like, man, what's this guy up to? And we just started talking, and he was telling me, and I love, Jimmy, we talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs and people that are doing innovative things, and especially doing it for the purpose of not only supplying and providing for their families, but to help other people, and that's what he was up to. So we clicked right away, and we've been friends and business associates in terms of me being able to talk to him about things ever since.
That's awesome. So
and that guy you gave me.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, let's because that was when me and you connected, and obviously we're always looking to share inspirational stories. And Jared, your name came up. Mike's like, "Oh, Jared'd be great for the show." And then we just had a brief conversation as we normally do to say, "All right, how'd you guys get connected? And can you share the story?"
Yeah, sure. So Jared had told me, what he's doing and what his company does, and I understood it. I think from kind of a 30,000-foot view and maybe even closer. But, at one point I had somebody that I was working with that I was mentoring, and he owned a very successful company, was making a lot of money for a long time, and there was a glitch in one of the digital payment systems that he was getting paid for his family business for years. And he needed money, and he was in a real pinch, and he was being offered money that was at a ridiculous rate, and just with terms that didn't seem fair. And I said, well, before you do that, hold on, I want to talk to somebody. And so I called Jared, and literally he said, let me have his phone number. I can do better than anybody else he'll ever speak to. And I said, man, this guy is
confident, right?
I like his style, right? And I mean, he may not come through, but at least he's going to give it the college try.
Yeah.
And that was it. That was literally the last I heard, because I don't remember what time it was, but it was at night. It might have even been on a weekend. I don't remember. And the next thing I heard was a day later, my associate called me, who was in the pinch, and he said, I just can't thank you enough. He said, he really came through. He gave me an incredible opportunity and rate, and got me everything I needed, and explained to me how he did it. And I said that was just such a great feeling to know that he had done that he came through exactly the way that he said he would, and he helped my client and my guy and his business, and that allowed him to pay his staff, and they were able to continue thriving because Jared put the pieces in place to help them do that.
That's amazing. So do you get that? I mean, that's just like, one of those stories, especially with the economy the way it is, the way, shut down, and the government specifically running things. I'm sure there's more stories like that.
Now, I'm sure there are a lot of them. Jared, to give us kind of the way that it works, like to pull back the curtain and explain like what happens. I'm the business owner or somebody that might be listening to this. What happens? Who comes to you? How does it work? How does it happen? And how do you help?
Absolutely. So pretty much, we'll make phone calls, and we'll call business owners that have been in the market, I guess maybe the past year. Maybe their information was submitted to a lending company that I'm affiliated with, and somehow, some way, that information goes from one ear to the other. That's just the nature of the business, to be honest with you. But anyway, so I'll call the business owner and be like, hey, my name's Jared. I'm calling from Service Payments LLC. I wanted to see if we could be a good fit for each other. I know you're probably getting competitive offers from other lending companies, mainly in New York City, but our rates are a lot lower, and we're a lot more lenient, and we'll work with you, and we will charge you less fees and things like that.
Yeah.
So before you go any further, let me stop you there. Who is the typical customer or client that comes to you? Who are they, and why do they come to you?
I would say normally it's a guy that owns a construction company, but I've worked with every type of business, but we'll say normally, I'd say 50% of the business that I've generated over the past 7 years is construction. So it's probably a guy that owns a construction business or a plumbing business or a restaurant, and they make around 50 to 150K a month. And let's say they're back, they didn't pay their taxes the past couple years, and they want to make things right with Uncle Sam.
Sure.
Or they want to open up another location. Let's say they own a restaurant, they want to expand and open up another restaurant, but they don't want to take it out of their pocket. They want the business to pay for it.
Gotcha.
Basically, all I need is the last 3 months of the business bank statements with a credit application, which is one page consisting of your social security number, your date of birth, and your home address. And then with that information, I can figure out where's the best place to have you go, or the best place for me to send you to get you the best deal.
So it's not the cookie cutter thing. You kind of tailor made to what that specific business, their needs, their wants, and then you kind of go through your database.
And I'll exactly. And a big part of it has to do with the FICO score. Credit score is big. and depending on your credit will play a significant role in how much the interest rate is.
Of course.
So yeah, that's how that works. The normal guy is a guy making around $100K a month, and he,
when you say making, they're making
grossing.
The business is right. The
grossing.
business is grossing, showing income of approximately $100,000 a month, or okay,
and yeah, so we'll look at the last 3 months' bank statements, and we'll look at the gross deposits. We'll look at the daily average balance of the account. We'll look to see if there's any NSFs or negative days on the account, and those are all the things that play the role in what if you get approved or not. I've been doing this for 7 years, so I can kind of look at bank statements and see what type of business it is, and I'll know where they need to go right away, just because I've been doing it,
So what happens next? So they call you, you talk to them, or vice versa, and then they show you their records, and what happens then?
And then I'll get their information, and then I'll think of what's going to be the best compatible matchup with the lenders that I work with. What lender's going to be best for this client, as in who's going to give me the lowest rate that I could sell at.
Plus how much they want.
Yeah, and how much they want. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's something important that I neglected to say, because I think with the person that you and I spoke about, it was a credit line that you had gotten him, right? So you gave him an opportunity to get X, but he only had to use Y if he needed that, right? So he doesn't have,
We got him, I think it was, we got him like anywhere from 6 to 9%. That guy, Jason.
Yeah, it was a good rate.
Yeah.
Wow.
Really good rate, because hard lending. Otherwise, they were offering ridiculous.
Yeah, and the guy So yeah, the one of the people I was speaking with was telling me that the guys were offering, the other guys that he was speaking to. The first thing he says to me, he goes, he's like, I know they smell blood.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
they know you're in a pinch, and
I'm like, I know what you mean. He's just like, I just know, I can hear it on their breath.
Yeah.
I call that commission breath. You know.
Yeah.
And and I'm like, yeah, I know what you mean. And see, this is what I feel like makes what makes what I do unique versus some of the other companies is a lot of, like, for that gentleman, for example, he spoke to a couple other companies. They probably offered him 30 to 40%, anywhere from 25 to 40% on the dollar, and that's a fact. And
my heart just skipped the beat.
And he probably got weirded out from that and felt some type of way about that. And I know what they're trying to do. Some people have this philosophy, you got to hit them up for as much as you can every single time, every single chance you get, because you don't know when's the next time you're going to get a next chance to hit somebody up hard.
I mean, it's a form of loan sharking, basically.
You know what I mean? So some people are like, whack them all, hit them for the highest rate, give them as much fees as possible, drain them for everything you can.
Yeah.
And I understand that philosophy, but what separated me from the other companies is that I'm not looking at it like that. I'm looking at it from a different perspective, as in, hey, let's get this guy a decent deal. We'll destroy the competition. He'll be happy, and he'll come back.
For sure. And refer people.
Instead, I may not make, $10K right now.
Exactly.
But I'm okay with $3,000-$4,000, because I'll make it in the long run, and I'll make him give me a good Google review and tell his friends about me. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then that's almost like the cycle that I'm sure you've created over the past 7 years, that you have this marketing guy that you can attract leads from, but you're also, in the same sense, the customers, your clients you have, you're generating a word of mouth business on the side as well.
Yeah.
All right, so talk a little bit about merchant cash advances for those who do not know what that is, what your company offers us.
That's my specialty.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the main thing I do.
Yeah.
Basically, it's technically a sale of your future receivables.
Okay.
At a discounted rate. That's what the verbiage is.
Yeah.
The legal
What does
verbiage.
that mean? Layman's terms. Dumb it down for me.
So basically, if you own a restaurant and you're selling plates of food, right?
Sure.
And the way that this industry, merchant cash advances, started was, it was a portion of your credit card receivables. It wasn't a daily payment, the same daily payment. So basically, let's say you're a pizza store, you're a pizzeria, you're selling pizza. We're gonna give you $100K, but we're gonna take 10% of all your credit card receivables. Every single time a customer swipes their card, we're gonna take 10% of that transaction. So every single plate, every single pizza that you sell, we're taking 10% of that. And that's how the industry started. And that's basically, you're buying, their future receivables at a discounted rate. That's the legal verbiage of it.
Gotcha.
That's the way.
So you're looking at, I'm sure, what they were producing previously. I don't know how far back you go.
3 months. 3 months.
3 months to make sure that they are going to be able to handle that.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So, in a sense, you're almost like vested into this company too.
Yeah.
Is it recourse, non-recourse? What does that mean? How does that work?
Recourse as in,
is it secured?
Unsecured, which is why the capital could be expensive depending on what your FICO score is.
When you say it's unsecured, what do you mean? Tell us what you mean.
There's no collateral. There's just a lot of loans. There's no personal guarantee either. It's just kind of like a promissory note, similar to something like that, where if you default on the loan, you'll have collection agencies calling you for a little while, but they can't call Gino to go break your legs.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
That's the difference. We're white collar guys. That's the mob, and that's the difference. You know what I mean?
So you're a direct lender as well. Can you explain how that works?
Yeah, I'll get into that. So I wouldn't say really direct lender. I'll go into that. I'll get into that with you.
Yo, let me hold a couple bucks.
right. So that's another thing that separated me from a lot of the other people, especially my old boss and the companies I've worked at. My old boss had this philosophy that he always said to me. He said, "Kid, they all go bad one day."
Yeah.
Every merchant you work with, every merchant you get money to, whether it's your best client, whether it's your wife, if she's a business owner, they all default eventually.
Yeah.
It's just the nature of the business.
Yeah.
And I come to believe that that's partially true.
Yeah.
But my whole thing was, after brokering all these deals for a few years, I started to see, man, I'm only thinking about this commission, this $10,000-$20,000 commission, versus the $40,000-$50,000 the lender's going to make in interest.
Yeah.
So there's a way bigger picture to this whole thing than 10, 20, 30K.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I started to think about it, and I said, you know what? I think I had like 50 to 100K saved up maybe 5-6 years ago, and one of my friends that worked at a company that I brokered loans to, I think they've lended about $9 billion so far. So anyway, my buddy at the company was like, Jared, my buddy at the company was also related to my old boss. How small of a world that is.
Wow.
The industry that I'm in, everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
And he goes, Jared, instead of paying you this commission for the deal, why don't you just syndicate your commission? It's going to be $4K. We'll turn the 4 into 6. And if you really think she's a good payer, you'll get your money back.
Yeah.
Put your big boy pants on. And how he got me was, he said this to me. He goes, if you do this, you'll have done something bigger than my old boss ever did in this industry. Wow. And I was like, yo, that sounds dope. He's selling me, and I'm sellable because I was like, I need to do that. I need to do that now.
Yeah.
And I did it, and what happened was that merchant was a woman, and she paid off. She only had the money for 2 months. She paid off early because a bank.
Wow, okay.
She ended up getting a bank to buy out all her advances.
Okay.
So I ended up making the 2K, and I was like, man, I didn't even do anything for this 2K.
Yeah.
And what I decided to do was, I don't recommend it, but I just threw out my net worth at that time, and just syndicated every dollar I had.
Yeah.
Wow. And then from there it just snowballed, and then till eventually I had lended about $2 million out of my pocket. Yeah, over the course of the years. And I was a young guy doing things like that that a lot of other people said I was out of my mind.
Yeah.
But it worked out well for me.
Yeah.
And I guess the reason why was because I had a different way of looking at my clients.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I didn't just look at them as, you know, hey, I'm going to be your broker. I became invested into the good clients, the clients that I've gotten 20 advances for that never missed a payment.
Yeah.
They became my family.
Yeah.
And I don't really have any family on this side of the country.
Yeah.
Besides my mother.
Yeah.
My family's all in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And I grew up in New Jersey my whole life.
Yeah.
So I literally made these clients, the good ones, my family.
Yeah.
And becoming close to them, getting to know their children, flying out to go see them, sending them gifts, sending them their kids gifts, and becoming close to them made me feel comfortable to give them my money.
Yeah.
And that was the difference between me and a lot of other brokers in the space. Was a lot of brokers aren't willing to do stuff like that, but I looked at it like, the closer I am to them, if they were to default, maybe they'll default on the other guys before they default on me.
Absolutely.
And it worked out well.
So in a very professional way, what struck me about him and the person that I introduced him to and the other people that he does business with is like he bets on humanity.
Yeah.
Which is powerful, right? When he meets these people and does business with them, and you know, my interactions with him have been that way.
And right on the website, you have honesty, transparency, and integrity are important to you and your clients, right? And just right off the bat, that was one of the things. Maybe some people may overread that and just like, oh, okay, yeah, all right, you and everyone else. But after having a conversation with you, listening to what Mike has to say, and the way you just describe what your clients are, I find that to be true.
Yeah. I got to update that website and do things like stuff like that. But no, I agree. And this guy. So there's a company. They're notorious. I mean, they're probably, if not one of the biggest companies in the space. And they're a very ruthless company.
Yeah.
And put it this way, I went to their Christmas party a couple years ago. They invited me, and they were giving out 100K, 250K briefcases to random people, and it was funny to them.
Wow.
They're talking about guys. These guys have lended over $20-30 billion. You know what I mean? And they got deep pockets. And I remember what the owner of the company said. He said, he says, you don't realize how big of a resource these business owners are, and these businesses are in the MCA space,
Yeah.
And and I agree, and I understand what he means by that.
Yeah.
Because you could have one good client, and I have a guy that I've made at least $700,000-800,000 on one business. One of my best guys, you know what I mean?
Of course.
So when you're so I guess where I'm going with that is there's a lot of money in the lending side of the business, and it's a very lucrative business. And what made me feel comfortable to put myself at risk to lose everything that I worked so hard for was befriending these people, getting close to these people, and making them have that feeling with me where it's like it's not just business. You know what I mean? Like, we're friends, and that's how I would treat them. You know what I mean? I would treat them like they were my family, the close ones. And because of that, I think that's why I've been lucky to where I think I've done about 40-something deals on my own money, and maybe 2 out of 40-something went bad.
Wow.
You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
really, really small default ratio.
Yeah.
And it's because my underwriting isn't based off of a FICO score. It's not based off of, the average bank balance.
Sure.
It's based on my experience with that business owner over the past years. You know what I mean?
So going back to what Mike said, you're betting on humanity, right? It's kind of like one of those things. It was cool. And I know you were saying something about your website, but I found this on there too, which I thought it's in alignment with what you're saying. It says, when you become a client of ours, you're considered family to everyone here at Service Payments LLC. Your business is our number one priority. And that literally, even though you said, a little outdated, but it still rings true.
That's our prince. That's the culture that I've always tried to bring the other guys that worked for me over the past few years to understand that same kind of culture, we wanted to be different than a lot of the other brokerages that are in the country. We wanted to, engage with our clients and, really get to know them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's been guys where I had a guy in Ohio, and he was in by Cincinnati, and he's a police officer, and he makes about $1 million to $2 million a month gross revenue.
Yeah.
And this is a guy who has like 800 something plus FICO score. He keeps at least $500-600K in his account at all times.
Yeah.
And he could get money from anywhere.
Yeah.
He's got brokers like myself calling him, drooling over him every single day.
Yeah.
He's got his own fan club of New York City brokers. That's a fact.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that guy, he ended up becoming a good client of mine, and we wanted to close him.
Yeah.
And the first deal we did with him was just $250,000, and he was working with 3 other brokerages.
Yeah.
And he had 3 other contracts besides mine.
Yeah.
And it's, we closed that deal. There's a lot of money in there.
Yeah. And
everybody's, the New York City guys I'm their competition. They're trying to do whatever they can to close that deal.
Yeah.
And I tell the guy, I said, listen, I'm going to fly out to Cincinnati. I'm going to hang out with you, and I want to meet you in person.
Yeah.
And I went out there, and I flew out there, and I closed the deal.
Nice.
And he said the difference of why I'm going to move forward with you versus the other 3 other companies that won't stop calling me is because you took the time to really fly out here, get to know me, see my wife and meet my family, and see the town that I'm a police officer in, and get to know me. And he's like, that left an impression on me.
Yeah.
He's like, you coming out here solidifies this deal and also separates you from the rest of the other guys.
Wow.
So I try to do things to that's what you got to do to be able to succeed in this industry. It's a very cutthroat business.
Yeah.
It's not for the soft-hearted. And
yeah. So has your business been affected at all by the coronavirus?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because what we're seeing, as we mentioned, we had a conversation obviously with my brother. When the government controls who can, basically conduct business, who cannot conduct business, I'm assuming it's like the domino effect. If it affects him, well, he's not going to have to take out, or he will have to take out a loan because of X, Y, and Z. But that's only going to be limited because of other things that they put into play. So you want to talk about a little bit of your experience there?
Yeah, it affected the entire industry that I'm in very, very, very badly.
Yeah.
Because basically it created an issue and an excuse, I wouldn't say an excuse for everybody.
Yeah.
But it basically gave a lot of business owners a reason to not pay their loans back.
Right.
If that makes any sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some were really affected by COVID, which is understandable, and we need to, we need to hear them out, and we need to work with them.
Yeah.
Others, they're just using that as an excuse. Their sales hasn't dropped at all.
Yeah.
And they're just like, COVID. I got COVID, or,
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to pay this $1 million back that I owe because COVID's around, even though their business is fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it created an excuse, and not for everyone, but it created a reason for everyone to stop paying on their loans. And we're talking about these companies that have multi-billion-dollar lines of credit with, Goldman and Sachs, Chase, and all these other big companies, and now they're wondering what's up with their money because now that company's not paying them back.
Right.
So now all of a sudden you got all these companies, they're losing their lines with some of these big vendors and these big facilities, and they're all scurrying around trying to collect on their money.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, some players went down and some players went up.
Yeah.
And a lot of brokerages got shut down because what happened was 80% of the people stopped paying on their loans.
Yeah.
And that was billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars that all these lenders lost.
Yeah.
And they had to recoup from that. And not only that, the SBA and the PPP money, obviously Uncle Sam's interest rates are a lot lower than mine's.
Right.
And these guys, all these business owners I talk to, they get a taste of that 3% money when I come to them with 20% money, they're thinking I'm the mafia.
Right.
I'm the mob or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, Trump just gave me 3%. Why would I take your money? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it really so not only did these people stop paying on their loans, they also want to puff their chest out and say, I'm only taking 3% now.
Yeah.
So it put a big hole in my pocket, and it affected my guys that worked here, and it was the hardest thing that I ever went through in the business ever.
Yeah.
Jim, can I say something? I want to go back for a second with regard to something that Jared said. And, I love blessed and faith, hard work, and gratitude. And he's talked a lot about faith and gratitude in terms of humanity. But that center one, that hard work, and I think it applies to all of your listeners, right? Regardless of what type of work they do, whether they work for someone or they have their own business, that hard work, you have to be the copper nail in a barrel full of silver ones to stand out. That's the one people see, right? That's the one they pay attention to. Mm-hmm. And for Jared to get on the plane and fly out there to see the police officer, just distinguish yourself somehow so that people recognize your value, that's what's going to make you succeed. It doesn't matter what you do, how you do it. So that's one of the things, with him and with other people that are successful, you guys, that stands out. So I think it's important. I don't want to just glance over it because I think that's one of the most important things to take away from this.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mike. What motivates you, Jared? Let's switch gears here and kind of hone into the home plate here.
Sure. I would say I would say my upbringing, my past. I grew up with my mom. DYFS had a big part of my life growing up. I've been in some group homes, foster homes, things like that, and growing up without much. You know what I mean? So when you grow up and you don't really have much, you got a big appetite. You want more. You want better for yourself.
Yeah. And
my father, unfortunately, was incarcerated for about 30 years.
Yeah.
And so I never had a role model father figure. I never had my family. I had my mother, who's from Hawaii, and how you go from Hawaii to New Jersey is beyond me. And
or why?
So I guess because of my upbringing, and I never had a computer my entire life.
Yeah.
Until I was about 19, 20. I never had a cell phone. You know what I mean? I never had a driver's license. Growing up, I grew up in taxis and walking with groceries, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
And I guess that kind of lit a fire under my butt because I knew that I didn't want that for my kids. You know what I mean? Or I wanted to have a better life, and I started to get big into Tony Robbins and things like that, and I remember some really cold nights out there. I've lived in homeless shelters for a long time too, in Atlantic City, in Camden. So I made some bad mistakes in my life, but those were the decisions that shaped me into the man I am today, and I do not regret them.
Yeah.
And so what motivates me, I guess, really coming from the dirt.
Yeah.
That's what got me here.
That's huge. That's huge.
Awesome.
And I think the big thing, the inspiring thing is overcoming all that adversity, making something, positive out of it. And like you said, I think a lot of times I was just watching it was a video of I guess it was like a sensei and I guess one of his students, and the kid wanted to quit, and the kid's sitting there just crying because he's like, I guess it was his final exam or his final test, and he couldn't overcome it, and for whatever reason, so the sensei's like talking through. He's like, the kid just kept saying, I failed. He's like, you didn't fail. He's like, and then a dad walks up. He's like, you know all the answers. When we're home, you knew all the answers. Why don't you know everything right now? What's going on? He's like, I failed. He's like, first of all, you didn't fail. Understand that what you consider a failure is just a life lesson. So coming over all those life lessons, and the kid all of a sudden just stood up, his chest poked out, he gave every answer correctly, and he got his little belt or whatever it was. But it's important for everyone to hear that message, because sometimes we always talk about the glitz and the glamour, and you always miss what the energy is behind that hard work, the story Jared just told us. A lot of that, I know me and my brothers specifically can relate to, and you want to, like, there's something there. It's like you're filling a void, but you want to prove a point too, not only to people, to yourself, that because you can overcome, you can become something, whatever it is, and achieve those goals. You think as a little kid, because you remember, and I remember just like thinking, broke as a joke as I was when we're going to school and watching people eat lunch, and I'm sitting there eating a banana because it was the only thing I could afford. It was 50 cents, right? And so you start to internalize that, like, I'm never doing this again. I'm going to do whatever it takes in my power to overcome whatever that was. And I think it's important for people to use that as a positive energy and apply that to your life in a positive way, because some other people will go the other way. So it's important to point out, the direction you went, and you went positive. Let's close this out with a recommendation on your end, and Mike, we'll actually, you know what, Mike, we'll go Jared first, and then Mike will cap it off with yours. What's your recommendation to anyone trying to create, start, or pursue their dreams for the first time?
Don't give up.
Yeah.
3 words.
Absolutely. That's it. And Mike, your response to the same question?
Follow your bliss. And that, inherent in that is identifying it, and that means taking the time to figure out what it is, and to really make sure that you don't give up on it. And I think a lot of times, because of the way our system is structured with school and our parents and the people that love us, try to get us to go in a direction that's safe, even though they're trying to get us to thrive. Really, they're protecting us, and that shadows our ability to really succeed and do that which we are most passionate. If you want to be a singer, if you want to lend money, you want to do podcasts, you want to be an attorney, whatever you want to be, you have to identify it. You have to put everything into it. Listen to everybody that tells you everything about it. Accept some of it, reject some of it, but don't lose track. Don't lose your drive for that. It's one of my favorite sayings is, as you go through life, no matter what your goal, keep your eye upon the donut and not upon the hole.
Now I'm hungry.
Never heard that one before.
Any closing words where people can get in contact with you if they want to reach out for your services?
Oh, yeah. LinkedIn is always good. LinkedIn or LinkedIn, or my phone number, which is 609-405-6910.
All right, so there you have it. We like to wrap things up with quotes, and the first one is by John Wooden. Do not let what you cannot do interfere with what you can do. And the second one by Elizabeth Kenny. It's better to be a lion for a day than a sheep all your life. Service payments. In this episode, the crew welcomes special guests Jared Tamashiro and Mike Mumola. We cover topics that range from term loans, line of credit, merchant cash advances, and the coronavirus, and much more. We wrap the episode up with quotes from John Wooden and Elizabeth Kenny. Awesome. Guys, thanks again for joining us. The Rotated Views podcast was produced for self-development purposes. Huge shout out to our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by the Blessed Lifestyle brand. That is BL3SSED.com. Also sponsored by The Motivation Files Unleashed. This motivational mixtape will be your fuel for success. Available on all platforms. Guys, don't forget to visit the website, JimmyLeeVelez.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Rotated Views. If you have any inquiries or questions, email us at info@JimmyLeeVelez.com. On behalf of myself and the rest of the crew, we wish you massive success. Stay blessed.